We may be staring Conference Championship Weekend right in the face, but there's still a lot to be determined. For example, we don't know who the 4 teams are that are going to be competing for the national championship yet. There's still to be decided this weekend. So, what if it came down to some controversy? I'm almost 100% sure it will come down to some controversy. Because either the winner of Clemson or Miami will be in most likely. Clemson, most definitely. Miami, I don't know, there could be an argument still. Let's just say that the winner of Clemson and Miami, the winner of Georgia and Auburn are going to be in for sure. Let's say Oklahoma wins against TCU, they'll be in. But who would be fourth? Let's just say this is an example. Let's just say that Ohio State were to beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. Then who'd be number 4? Would it be Ohio State or Alabama? And I came up with some notes. I took some notes here today on why I think that the committee will still put in Alabama over Ohio State, despite Alabama being not a conference champion, but Ohio State being a conference champion. So this is just things that I've noticed through these first 3 years that we've been under this format, that we've been witnesses to this. When this whole thing started back in 2014, I've noticed things from 14, 15, and last year in 16 on what I think the committee is going to end up doing. So I came to these analysis that I came up with based on what what I've seen throughout the first 3 years. I don't know if any of you have seen the same things, but I've determined that I don't think the committee wants to do these 4 things. Put in a group of 5 team in the playoff. This is why Central Florida, wanting to be considered toward the top 10, or any group of 5 team would ever get towards the top. The second thing that I don't see them wanting to do is putting 2 teams in the same conference. And these 2 things also the Green Man also mentioned earlier this season. And that's one of the things that the committee doesn't want to do. I feel like unless they really, really had to. So, let's just say, for example, Georgia beats Auburn, though, in this scenario. Then Georgia would be in automatically. Then Clemson and OU would already be in there. Because assuming they've won already. Would the committee want to put in Alabama number 4 with 1 loss? Or they put an Ohio State team with 2 losses that's a conference champion? The third thing that I do not think the committee wants to ever do is to put in a 2-loss team. So let's just say that Auburn beats Georgia, and let's just say Ohio State beats Wisconsin. The committee already doesn't want to really put in a 2-loss team in Auburn, but they have to because they don't have a choice. So would you really think the committee want to put in another 2-loss team in Ohio State when they clearly may not want to, based on some evidence that I saw last year, because there was an argument of why Penn State didn't get in because they were the Big Ten Conference champions, but that was because Penn State was a 2-loss team. And since in these analysis the committee doesn't want to put in a 2-loss team, I don't think they want to put in Ohio State being a 2-loss team, because right now, if this were to play out, they'd already be forced to put in one 2-loss team in Auburn, so there's no way they want to put in a second one. Alright. The fourth and final thing that I do not think the committee wants to do unless they feel like they really, really had to. And this is where it gets interesting. This is where the whole controversy would spark in. Put in a non-conference champion. Now, remember the first year they did this. In 2014, the committee had a TCU ranked number 3 heading into conference championship weekend, and they finished 11-1 on the season, with their only loss being to Baylor by 3 points in a 61-58 thriller. At least I think that's what the score was. Heading into that conference championship weekend, they were ranked number 3, and they demolished Iowa State convincingly 56-3. However, that next morning, it was determined that TCU went from 3 to 6 in that final rankings. The 4 teams that got in the first year were Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, and Ohio State. Now, what did all 4 of those teams have in common? They were all conference champions. So this could be a clue that the committee does not want to put in a non-conference champion either. Let's feel like they really, really had to. But last year they did the same thing with Ohio State. They were a non-conference champion, but they still got put in. And here's why Ohio State got put in last year as a non-conference champion. Because look at who was behind them. They had Washington at number 4 with only one loss. And Washington did not have a resume to get into the top 4, because the only good team they played last year was USC, who beat them convincingly. And who else was behind them? 2-loss Penn State, 2-loss Michigan, and 2-loss Oklahoma. So, based on these things, I think that if it came down to Alabama and Ohio State, I am the committee who put in Alabama. Because let's refer back to the 4 things that I gave my analysis on what I think the committee doesn't want to do, unless they really, really had to. Put in a group of 5 team. We can skip that, because Central Florida is not going to get in. Put in 2 teams in the same conference. They will be stuck with doing that. They could be stuck with doing that. Putting in a 2-loss team. They don't really want to do that either. Or put in a non-conference champion. So at this point, you got to pick between your lesser of 3 evils. Are you going to put in 2 teams in the same conference? Are you going to put in multiple lost teams when you're already forced to put in 1 if Auburn were to beat Georgia this Saturday? So I'm going to explain this more tonight, but I feel like Alabama doesn't have as bad as a resume as people think. I know there are some experts out there that are saying that Alabama shouldn't be in, but here's the deal though. Their convincing win this year is actually against Florida State. It should still be considered a convincing victory, because Florida State was number 3 that night, and everyone was hyping up the game all offseason. Alabama versus Florida State. A spot in the playoff will be on the line in this game. And Alabama, they were ahead convincingly when DeAndre Francois went down in the 4th quarter. They were already up 24-7, despite losing 2 big defensive presences in their defense. So they still won convincingly 24-7 against, that night, the number 3 team in the country. So I'm still counting that as a convincing win. Mississippi State, on the road, they had to play from behind. They struggled most of the night, as a lot of teams will struggle against Mississippi State. Because if you fall behind early in Starksville, you're not going to. The odds are stacked against you to win that night. They went behind early with the Cowbells. They overcame that, and they won. LSU was a convincing victory as well, because LSU did beat Auburn, though. So LSU kept on winning and finished the year 9-3, so that win is more convincing. So Alabama, in my opinion, has 3 convincing wins. Now let's look at Ohio State's convincing wins. Ohio State, they lost to Oklahoma. That's Oklahoma's big signature win this year. They beat Penn State. They came back from being 17-18 down against Penn State to win. They also clobbered Michigan State 56-3. And if they beat Wisconsin, they have 3 convincing victories. So what does the committee want to do? I think Ohio State's going to get the shaft here. I think they'll put in Alabama over Ohio State based on the analysis that I provided, because they'd have to choose between one of their lesser of 3 evils. They're either going to have to be forced to put in 2 teams from the same conference. They're going to be forced to put in not even 1 2-loss team if Auburn were to win, but 2 2-loss teams. And I don't think they want to do that. And they don't want to put in a non-conference champion. So, do they put in the conference champion with 2 losses when they don't want to put in a team with 2 losses to begin with? Or do they go with the 1-loss non-conference champion? I think they'd go with Alabama, because I think that Alabama's 1 loss is much better quality and even quantity than Ohio State's 2 losses. Because remember, Penn State would have gotten in last year if they would have beaten Pittsburgh. And plus, Penn State's 2nd loss was also a blowout loss to Michigan, 49-10. And I know Saquon Barkley wasn't playing in the game, but I don't think that matters, though. That's not going to make a 39-point difference. So, we'll see what happens when it comes down to it. Like and subscribe to the channel. I'll go over this tonight after the committee releases their 5th playoff rankings of the year. So, I'll see you then. I will see you later.